Well, I think you've done an exceptional job at kind of, positioning yourself as, like Mike said in the beginning, man, one of the greatest developers that Philadelphia has ever seen. So that's the good
Whoa,
news.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah.
I mean, it's not wrong, Mark, right? Like, you gotta, come on, man, put your Johnny on the table a little bit, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you've established yourself as like one of the guys in the city, man. So, like, you got to have some confidence, man, and respect is being shown for that. So, I think whatever happens for you in the next 5 to 10 years, you're gonna be just fine. That's the good news. Welcome back to What's the Good News, the best insider look into the most influential individuals in the real estate industry as a whole.
And I'm your host, Michael Smith, and with me as always, Mr. Dominic Cardarelli. He is the best closer I know, and together we have over 20 years of real estate experience. Today we have on the show a close personal friend and colleague, Mr. Mark Shearman, who is the owner of Shearman Group and is a full-time real estate investor and developer. Since 2013, he has developed over 70 properties consisting of over 100 units in the Philadelphia market. His eye for detail and creative approach has secured his spot as one of the greats of real estate development in Philadelphia. Mark, what's the good news, buddy?
Good news is I'm here to talk about real estate and hope to have some fun. Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Excellent.
man. We're happy to have you on the show, Mark. It's always a blast hanging out with you, man. You're the king of Fishtown, buddy. You're the king of Fishtown. I know that to be true.
Kind of feel like the janitor these days, but thanks.
I mean, that's everybody, though, man. Mark, let me ask you this, man. So there's been some crazy shit that's gone down the last, let's call it week and a half, right? The SBB collapse, the financial potential crisis happening again. What do you think about that, man? How do you think that that's going to impact you being able to get loans in the upcoming future, your projects that you have going on? What are your thoughts on that, man?
Well, I guess in the last week I've experienced longer holds on checks, doing a couple third-party general contracting jobs, and Wells Fargo has decided to place 10-day holds on checks now, which were once, next day. Speaking to a couple lenders that I have some applications in with, they don't foresee any major issues coming up, so. I'm hopeful it's just a little blip in the road here, but also, aware that there could be something greater. But detecting that is beyond my level of expertise and knowledge. So I'll rely on the bankers to tell me that.
For certain, man. For certain. Hey, in times of turmoil, man, that's just good news for us, man. It's everything's discounted, right? We're getting some deals, baby. That's what that means.
That's what they say. Yeah, I'm hoping, but still waiting to see those discounts come through.
When did you do your first deal? When did you get in like your first flip?
It was in February of 2011.
Okay.
Bought my first flip in Fishtown.
And you never left.
No, I never left. At the time I wasn't living here full time. I was back in Indiana living with my parents, and came back out here to hang out with some friends, and decided to go all in on a house that I picked up off of Craigslist. So,
Do you think people still use Craigslist? I haven't really looked into it much, but I kind of stopped using that resource.
Yeah, I think it's dead. I think it's more like maybe a little bit on Facebook Marketplace, but I have not. I've not done anything on Facebook Marketplace, but I did. I kept rolling on Craigslist, and then that kind of dried up as I guess as things progressed in the real estate industry. So, the easy deals of going shopping on Craigslist for your next property, those days are over. So,
yeah, Mark and I met at my second rehab ever. I was like, I don't even remember how I stumbled upon you, but I was like, Mark,
through an accountant that I no longer use. He was a client of yours.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I do remember that now. 100%.
Yeah.
So Mark came in, gave me a bid, and I was like, yeah, maybe, and ended up not giving him the job. We're still friends today, so that's good news.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Then helped you out with helping out finding a personal home. So
Yeah, that was a win.
yeah.
I'm trying to pay it forward now. It's not that easy, bro.
Was that the one on Dolphin Street, Mike?
Well, he was living on Dolphin. Yeah.
I was living on Dolphin. No, this was a different.
So it was
This was
on
the other one.
Emerald. Okay. Yeah, that was a good spot, man. Dude, I cannot believe that project that they're doing, like adjacent to that right now. That mass, what is it, like 500 plus units over there they're doing right now, Mark?
Yeah, within probably a 2 block by 2 block radius. Yeah, there's probably like close to 500 units going on right there.
So crazy, man. I mean, that can only stabilize the rental market in like that part of Philadelphia, right? Or Philadelphia as a whole, right? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I mean, it's better than empty lots with abandoned cars in them. We'll see what see what it brings. As far as like the rentals, I hope it can bring some density and some foot traffic around there to boost up that part of the neighborhood. So
I think it's definitely going to affect the rental market in regards to a lot of the, let's call it BC level landlords that really haven't updated their properties. They maybe have like a 331 and they haven't updated it since 2004, and they're getting top dollar rents.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see a lot of transition from a lot of those properties being turned over as there's more inventory for rentals on the market.
Yeah, we'll see. I think there's some lofty projected rents coming out of those buildings, but I ultimately wish them luck and hope they achieve them. So yeah, a lot has changed, since those, they used to be called the mega lots.
I think they changed hands like 3 times.
Yeah. I nearly missed out on one of them just by being on the street every day. I had some random guy come up and talk to me. I was outside of a place I just bought, and guy just came up, started talking about stuff, and knew the guy that wanted to sell one of those mega lots. And so I gave him a call after I got his phone number, and like missed out on it by like 2 weeks to get it on the original price before it was probably flipped, 2 or 3 times. And, it's how the cookie crumbles. And
so how did you even get into real estate to begin with? Like what was your trajectory from when you graduated from, you went to Purdue, right?
Yeah, I went to Purdue University. I got a 4-year degree in construction management. Took a job with a company that moved me out to Philadelphia. Got my first apartment in Manayunk, and learned a lot. Learned a hell of a lot in the 6 years that I worked for that company. And I always knew I wanted to get into renovating old houses. That was kind of like the main goal. Was I always wanted to like renovate the old houses, save the past. Have had a knack for some like interesting design. So, even while I was like working for the company, I remember taking a couple of days off, and I went to some sheriff sales in the city. But I never pulled the trigger on anything. I didn't really know about like hard money lending at the time. So I was trying to work with capital that I had saved up, which, at 22, 23 years old wasn't much. So saw a lot of hell of a good deals at those sales, but ultimately never did anything. And then I purchased my first house in Germantown that I renovated while living in, which I would recommend doing it once, but if you do it twice, then you definitely have something wrong with you. So living in your own rehab is not advisable. More than once.
I would agree with that, man. Dude, I remember when when I was in like high school, right? My dad was remodeling the house I grew up in. Bro, it's like he's working on it at night. He's working his full-time job. Dude, we didn't have a kitchen for like 8 months. I'm like sitting over here eating microwavable meals. I'm like, I'm just trying to work out and like get some muscle mass. I'm just shriveling up into a string bean, dude. I was so pissed at my dad. But after the freaking rehab was done, man, I was like, oh, this is a nice kitchen. Okay, I see what we were doing here. Yeah, it's
the plywood countertops.
Oh, dude, it was the worst, man. Absolute worst.
having to pull a piece of Visqueen over your bed every morning. You wake up. It gets old after a while. So, so I did that. I barely finished that house. The day I was moving out, I had a couple guys still finishing the railing on the outside. But I lost my job in 2009 with the company I was working for. Took a severance and unemployment and took some time off, did some traveling, a lot of time to think. Yeah, ultimately moved, made a move back home to Indiana. Think I was going to get into this in Chicago, but the market was just different there, much more expensive. You couldn't buy a house for $60,000. So I ended up coming back to Philadelphia sporadically. I guess I should say randomly, got into my first house in Fishtown off of Craigslist and kept it rolling since then,
And in 2011, Mark, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. That was right when the work and the gentrification of Fishtown and the Northern Lib area started happening, right? Or were you before that really started?
It was kind of I think it was the second wave. I think the first wave was prior to 2008, and then I think things settled down. And then when I got into it in 2011, I think that was the next wave. When I was finishing my first house, Steven Starr had just announced the opening of Frankfurt Ave, a Frankfurt Hall on Frankfurt Ave. So that was the emergent, I'd say the first big significant sign for Fishtown that kind of put things on the map was Frankfurt Hall.
That's crazy, man. So you've done 70 projects up to this point in terms of flips. I love your flips, by the way, man. You're one of the few guys that's able to really take the old historic, cool architecture of these old ass row homes in Philadelphia and really combine it with some modern features and make it look awesome. I think that's why you've done so well in Philadelphia is because you're really able to maintain those aesthetics, right? Because this is some cool ass molding. I think you're one of the first guys that was doing the brick walls and stuff on the inside, and that stuff's been awesome. So, as the market continues to progress, do you plan on leaving Fishtown to grow your business, or what are your thoughts?
I've ventured out. I've done some projects, mainly almost in every part of the city. One thing I haven't gotten into is West Philly. I feel like maybe I missed an opportunity there with West Philly, but I've been in South Philly, Manayunk, the River Wards area, Port Richmond, East Kensington, Fishtown. I guess I've stuck around in Fishtown for the majority. I developed a pretty solid street team out there for acquisitions. I mean, that's really been the bread and butter to me of picking up my deals has been, street level deals. My mass mailing, hasn't been consistent or very fruitful. Cold calling, I've done pretty good off of cold calling. But the majority has come off of my street level deals. Pretty good street team. Like everything else, time changes everything, and that street team has they've moved, they've died, gotten hooked on drugs, disappeared. So it's the team has dwindled a little bit, but and so have the leads, but still trickling in. I guess these days more people like you guys have been the ones that have been pointing the leads in my direction, but
that's always the good news. Yeah. Anytime Mike calls me, Mike goes, Mark has another deal. Here's the address, Dom. I just skipped them. Call him. This is the price we need it for. It's complete layups. You know what I mean? It's great. Mark's going to buy it. I know he's solid. Fantastic. You're going to close this thing in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's, that's really been the bulk of my deal making has been through that. So, and yeah, it's a lot different now. It's way different now than what it was. Neighborhoods are different that we're working in. I miss the original flavor and character mean, there's been a lot that's changed in, East Kensington and Fishtown, and I miss it. I miss the old character and characters that are no longer around, really. I mean, that's kind of what made it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You never knew what you were going to get.
Rolling up to the auto shop on Friday night with a 30 pack of Miller Lite, and dude, when we would stand out there and drink beer for, I don't know, till like 11 o'clock at night,
So, Mark, what was one of like the most challenging flips that you've ever done in the city of Philadelphia? Like your worst war story, bro. Like worst day of your life in real estate, man. Tell me about it.
Challenging and worst days probably don't go hand in hand. I had a pretty significant fire, which was probably the most challenging.
How far along were you in that rehab when the fire broke out?
I guess I consider it the hardest part of the jobs is before you hit insulation and sheetrock. So I was just about through that. And, it was an old building that required a lot of work, a lot of special attention. And yeah, then to have a fire in it was pretty defeating. So, so you have the fire, and then you have everything, the many years that lead on after you have an incident like that, especially if, you damage a neighbor's house next door. So you have that. I bought, I guess it was my first multi-unit building. If we could touch upon, yeah, that was kind of like I hit like a moment of like clarity when I went to my first real estate meetup, and it was Phil Falcone. Do you guys ever go to see any of his YouTube videos or anything? So I went to a Phil Falcone meetup, and that was like, it unlocked a lot of questions I had in my head. So I took what I learned at that meeting, and I approached an old-time landlord in East Kensington, and I had heard that he wanted to get out. So I went to him, and that was my first owner finance deal, where he didn't really need the money, just didn't want to deal with the tenants anymore. He was a big rooming house guy. This building was not roomed out, it was actually apartments, but I had bought the building from him with his owner financing. And I'd say about 2 months into collecting the rent there, and it was one of those where you had to like knock on the door every month to collect the rent. The lady told me that she wasn't paying rent anymore. And I asked her why. And she told me because I'm the new owner and she didn't want to pay. So I had to like think about that for a minute. I was relatively, young and more naive than I am still today. But I kind of like looked at it. I was like, I don't understand like why you don't want to pay me the rent. You paid Joe. Why don't you want to pay me? And she didn't give me a straight answer. So, the tenant upstairs quickly came up with the same solution. Well,
does she own the building too?
No. So yeah, then the lady's name was Flower, and the tenant upstairs said, "Well, Flower's not paying you rent, so I'm not going to pay you rent."
Oh, buddy.
I was like, "Oh, this is really good." So I went through my first eviction process. And after I got the tenants out, which at the time was relatively quick, it was like less than 60 days I got them out, did the eviction process by myself. After I got the tenants out, I really saw what I had bought. And it was such a turd box that I didn't really know where to begin. When I had bought the place, the rents covered the mortgage after the down payment. Like the rents had covered everything. So it was okay. I wasn't really too focused on having to go in and like renovate these apartments right away. But I got the other tenants voluntarily left. They were moving back to Puerto Rico. So, I had this empty building that I had a mortgage on that I never really planned on. I didn't have like a plan B to pay the mortgage. It wasn't in the works. I figured these tenants would stay because where else are they going to go? So I finally saw, like, after I got all of their contents out, this place was a complete mess. I got into a situation where I started to renovate these apartments little by little, eventually ran out of money. So I went back and talked to the old owner who was carrying the note. and he gave me a second loan against the building to finish these apartments. So,
Wow.
And I remember that day. So he had agreed to pay me that loan, or to loan me the extra money against the building. But it was taking a while. It was taking longer than I had thought. And I got myself into a pickle where I was still running out of money, and I had people working in there. I wasn't going to make, Friday's payday, at the rate I was going, but so I kept that all bottled up inside. And, I was also like beginning to date somebody who I liked, and, she had told me she was moving. So I had all this stuff. I had like all this, I had emotional stuff going on. I had financial stuff going on. So there wasn't much that was missing from the situation. That was probably like the most trying moment that I can remember, where like, life in general was kind of collapsing in on me. But, I got through it. The loan paperwork came through. I signed on it. Joe had given me the money. I moved on in my personal life, and eventually moved into that apartment building, and lived rent free for many years. So
Nice. I thought you were about to say that the girl you were dating, man, you hit her up for a loan too. That's where I thought you were going.
No.
I was like, damn, Mark's just spiraling down a pitfall of debt here, man. This is getting crazy.
I did not go there. Yeah.
No, that's good though, man. I'm glad you were able to turn it around. So how was that conversation like with the previous owner when you were like, hey, it's me again, and guess what? I need more money. What do you think?
It went surprisingly well. It went surprisingly well. Like he didn't even have to think about it. I went into his office and he agreed to it right then and there. Until, it was a little bit over $100,000. And he didn't bat an eye to it. He said, he said the worst thing that's going to happen is I take my building back, and I agreed with him. But and then, hey, I mean, for what it's worth today, that's one of my, if not the most profitable rental that I have. Like, that part of the neighborhood has come along. I've got a good storefront tenant in there, and I've got 3 really good paying tenants in the apartments. So it's
nice.
Really good for me. So
what gave you that idea when you were short on cash to just go back to the previous owner and ask him to, come to the table with more? Is it because you already had like an existing note with him and it's like, buddy, we're already in this together? Or
it was the path of least resistance. That was it, and I knew he was flush with cash too. So
that's good, man. Yeah, sometimes private money is like easier to get than going to like a hard money guy or going to your bank, right? It's like, really just like super negotiate those terms too, right? Like,
right. I mean, the banks, the banks at the time weren't really going to be too much of an option for me. I guess I didn't really have many options, so I went back to Joe, so.
In terms of your rehab style, Don mentioned it before. I know you're a very humble guy, but I mean, you're hands down one of the best rehabbers I know. And the data shows that anything that you put on the market sells either a day or a week when it's listed. When you're taking on a project, I mean, can you take me through your process of, what are you looking for? I mean, is there certain things in the house are you trying to bring out? Is there a certain layout that you like? I mean, how do you get these things done, and where does your mind at when you start these projects?
I guess, doing this for 12 years and walking through hundreds of houses, you don't buy all of them that you walk through, and you kind of start to look for the key elements, which, sometimes you have to take the good with the bad. You typically like to look for something that has had a solid roof over it, which again is not always the case. and you get those shed additions, which are just nightmares to deal with if you can't, if you can't fix what you have and you have to, get into, ripping off those shed additions. But ultimately, it's a good set of stairs is a huge thing that I look for. You can, good set of stairs with like a nice newel post. In general, like I kind of feel like I can shine any turd that I come across. Every house is different. No two houses are the same. You could buy a house next door to each other that shares a party wall, and it could be, it's usually a little bit different. Maybe the floors aren't as nice. I love refinishing the old wood floors. That's huge. You can't buy that character. I mean, you can buy it, but it's actually very expensive to buy reclaimed wood floors. So
what about like from a design aspect?
Design aspect, I guess you could probably look at the portfolio that I've done and you'll see, I seem to have, I try to keep, I don't reinvent the wheel every time. So there's some key elements that I always try to incorporate in the houses, and stuff that doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes effort. It takes effort, sweat equity. I'm usually putting in some effort into almost every house I do, whether it's, weeks or days. I'm still pretty hands-on in most of my projects. But yeah, it's really like trying to incorporate the elements that I use repeatedly, but just in different ways.
I think that's one of the coolest things about your rehabs and your flips that you do too, Mark, is like each house is not like a cookie cutter like a lot of these big developers do, where they have a certain style, they come in, they kind of just repeat it because that's a scalable model, right? But you've proven that like you can make each house have its own charm and its own unique situation, and that's still scalable because you're able to do that on every single flip that you do, man. I think that's like one of the coolest things about your houses that you do is like every time Mike shows me the listing, man, it's just like, oh shit, Mark went a little crazy on this one. This looks awesome, man. This is crazy. And the one thing that I've noticed that you do on each one of yours, you have like one thing that is like unique to that house. It's like the showcase for that house, whether it be a full brick wall or like a custom wood thing that you do. Yeah. You always do one like thing that house is known for, right? And I think that that's just so cool, man.
Yeah, I do like I call it like my feature wall. That I mean, how many houses do buyers walk through when they're looking for a house? And if I could keep something in their head that, what about that house who did that like feature wall with the old lath or, the reclaimed wood. That's my motto. Even on my new construction houses, I try to do something that sticks out. And it seemed to work.
Oh, it works, buddy.
It definitely works, man. So, Mark, what would you say to a guy that's getting into their first flip, right? Guy or girl looking to get into real estate, they want to do their first flip, right? What advice do you have for them, man?
Don't quit your day job. I did not quit my day job. My day job quit me. So I kind of, I got into this by, really I had nowhere else to go. And, they say, do what you love and the rest will follow. But, it's hard to do this without money. So, money is, it's pretty important when it comes to real estate. So yeah, doing it full time, you definitely have ups and downs and, early on, like the low points far outweigh the high points. I guess my thing is like sweat. I would say is sweat equity. Get involved in the projects, whether it's like cleaning it out, if you want to do carpentry, painting. That would be my thing. Was like get involved so that you can look at your future deals a little bit different. You have an idea of what is going into each one of these houses instead of just like contracting the whole thing out. I guess I'm more of a hands-on person, which sometimes I wonder if I'd be better off if I wasn't a hands-on person. Would I be in a different spot? Could I have done more? But Yeah, that's one thing. Just don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Almost every single one of my projects has been like a full on gut. There's been very few houses where I've been able to do a cosmetic makeover on them. So I really haven't had much luck with just doing like a cosmetic flip.
Why do you think that is, Mark? You think it's just easier just to kind of start fresh with just the bare bones of the house, or?
I think it's just a housing stock that I've dealt with. I mean, a lot of my stuff has been in like East Kensington, Fishtown, and these houses have just been like run down to their last, their last bit of livability. It's not like I got involved in a suburb, that was maybe like built out in like the 50s or 60s or something like that. It's just been houses that have just been complete train wrecks. So, knob and tube wiring, crumbling plaster walls. So
they were built in the beginning of the 1900s.
Yeah, that's it.
So
really.
I mean,
Yeah,
they've been lived in, let's say.
definitely been lived in, man, for certain. So as the market continues to mature and, kind of things start to, I guess, shake out and consolidate in Philadelphia, do you plan on staying in Philly, or what markets do you think you're going to start looking at as, time progresses here?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I guess I have gotten, I used to do, all rehabs, and then I got into new construction. I got into some multifamily, and the price of everything has really put a damper on the amount of fun. Because that was always my main thing, was to have fun. Wanted to have fun and make money doing it, and the fun is starting to wear off, and actually the money is starting to wear down a little bit too. So I've been looking all around. The suburban market. I've looked. There's just as many people chasing the land in the suburban markets as there are in the city, is what I've come to find.
Probably more.
Yeah, maybe more. And if you really have to watch, I've dug into a couple bigger parcels and even smaller parcels in the suburbs, and you have to watch your infrastructure costs out there. I mean, you're not running 20 feet of 1-inch copper water line out there. You may be running several hundred feet of it. So
Yeah.
you're not connecting 10 feet into the city sewer out there. You're gonna maybe have to put in $100,000 grinder pump to get rid of the sewage. So,
on that topic, I mean, when you go into a deal, I mean, what are you looking for? Is there a specific return that you specifically are looking for? Do you use any specific formula, or is it more like a gut thing?
On the single family stuff, I've pretty much come to the conclusion that the rental aspect on single family homes has diminished. I'm not so if I'm looking at a single family, I'm more looking at it to flip it. I've just got my own set of criteria that, I want to make X amount of dollars on it. If you can't, if you can't make X amount of dollars on a deal, then it's really not worth doing. So I guess it's something that someone has to establish, like, on a personal level, like, what they want to make. On the multifamily stuff, that's a little bit more complicated, the underwriting on that. On the larger stuff, I have a couple people that help me out with that.
So there's really no specific formula? Are you just saying like, hey, if I get into this deal and I'm going to flip it, I need to make like 40 grand, or is it in comparison to
on a flip, that's the number that I look at. If I can't make $40,000 on it, then it's really not worth my time or the cost of my capital to do it. So
Yeah, it keeps it pretty simple, honestly. Just kind of having that metric.
Yeah, it keeps it pretty simple as long as the government doesn't raise the interest rates when you're having to do a project, and you have multiple projects that you're not going to make $40,000 on. And
yeah, chill for sure. After what just happened, though, I think the rates are going to kind of start simmering down. I mean, they're talking about potential cuts in the summer, so that's the good news, I guess, right?
I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, I'm not an economist.
For certain.
I I think econ was a 7:30 class at Purdue. So days.
So, Mark, you've kind of made the transition in your portfolio over to new construction, multifamily. What do you think prompted that? Why did you go from just doing your fix and flips to kind of trying out something different?
I guess I started gaining a better understanding of what I actually wanted out of my career. Things evolved. I started to, after a couple years of doing just flipping, which was like very low numbers, like start off with one a year, and then maybe it progressed to 2 or maybe 3. And then I picked up, I guess when I picked up my first really cheap house, that's when I was like, well, I should keep this as a rental if I'm going to stay in Philadelphia and do this full time. And yes, just started talking to more people and started coming across other, multi-unit, multi-zone buildings, and slowly discover that, this is really where it's at. So I started to try to balance things out. I mean, I wish 10 years ago I would have paid more attention to RM1 properties instead of RSA 5, single family row homes, but I didn't. Let's face it, everybody in real estate wants to make more money, right? So that's that's really where how things evolved.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Just natural progression. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't, I have learned things as I went along. I didn't really, didn't have a mentor that, said, hey, go look for this or go do that. It was more by trial and error, talking to people, and just paying attention,
Nice. So if you didn't do real estate, what do you think you'd be doing? What are your hobbies? Besides, getting drunk at Loco Pez on a Monday afternoon.
Hobbies, man, that has kind of been my, I've always had hobbies. I've been a collector. I've collected things my entire life. I've collected old bikes, Schwinn, the banana seat bikes, Stingrays and crates. I was into cars. I had an old classic car that I took learned a lot on that. That was another big lesson of mine. I put a bunch of money into the wrong year car. Took a healthy bath on that one. But I still love cars. I've got a couple old. I actually went to Guatemala, I guess maybe 6-7 years ago at this time, and I started seeing these old Toyota trucks running around there. So I got into those a little bit. I've imported a couple Land Cruisers, which gotten married and have a couple kids now. So those Land Cruisers have taken a back seat to family. But yeah, I've always been a hunter, a collector of interesting things. So I've really had no shortage of what I would spend my time on if it wasn't real estate. Eventually, having to run a business is a lot different than being in business. So when you start to pick up properties and have to manage people, employees, it takes a lot of time, and the hobbies start to take a back seat. So haven't stopped collecting, just haven't been able to put the time in to fix some things up. So I would love to travel around, and American Pickers, that's awesome to me. Mike Wolf, what he does, that is sweet. That would be great, just to travel around and meet people. I mean, that's one of the things I've loved about doing what I'm doing is meeting the people, which are not always, for the majority, it's good people. You do meet some people that you wish you hadn't have met, but the good people that you meet doing this really makes it a lot of fun. So
definitely does. What type of classic car is your favorite, man? I know those what is it, like a Toyota Helix that you have, those old pickups, man. They're like bulletproof, dude. You could literally run those into a wall and it'll be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
So I've got it's a Toyota Land Cruisers, the FJ45s, which are the pickup version.
Okay.
I was into the Volkswagen scene early on in like my high school years. High school, a little bit into college, I was into the Volkswagen scene. So I had a 72 Beetle that I traveled around to like local shows with.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like always, trying to find stuff you get a deal on. But yeah, the Land Cruisers are cool. Those things, really skyrocketed in value. So, the people in Guatemala have cell phones and they can see the prices just like we can see them here. So that whole opportunity kind of came to a halt mainly in COVID. COVID really just changed a lot of stuff, not really for the better of anything. So, the Land Cruiser importing has pretty much dried up. That's, I got one more sitting over there that I need to get over here, but, it's kind of dried up. So, but yeah, anything really, I like unusual stuff.
With your experience with cleanouts and stuff, what's the coolest thing you've come upon in the Philadelphia market? Because I know I've come on some pretty weird shit.
Oh man. My office now has a collection. I've collected. That's kind of been maybe a downfall of mine, is saving some of the junk that I find in these houses. But I've repurposed a lot of that stuff and put it back in. My rental properties have a lot of interesting things in them. I've collected old frames. I've got, 50, 60 old frames. I got a wall with picture frames hanging on them with no pictures in. The coolest thing I've collected out of there, kind of looking around my office now, what I have. I don't know if there's like any like one thing that's like really, really cool that sticks out. I used to collect old doors. I saved the doors that came out of houses. That didn't really end too well. I did turn the old doors into some wainscoting in a couple of the houses. So that's kind of how I got rid of that. Stopped collecting old doors out of houses.
What are some of the resources that you could recommend as far as like books, podcasts, groups that either you've learned from previously or now that you can share with everybody to help them out?
Books, I really never read anything real estate based, to be honest. Growing up, I had a book that was passed down. I never read it, but it was on my bookshelf. And it was on the spine of it, it was called Live Rent Free. Although I never read the book, it stuck with me for forever till today. But I never read it. My dad has gone on. I've never been much of a reader, to my dad's dismay. But, I guess I just immersed myself in these properties to where I would just like work so much. It was usually like at least 12-hour days. I would work myself to exhaustion every day. And I didn't really have much left. And I was typically, before kids, I was typically working, 6 days a week, 12-hour days. So I didn't really dedicate much else, much of my time to anything else besides working. Looking back on it, I think like getting involved in like a local meetup would be huge. It would definitely help you solve your issues starting out a lot faster. But you develop some like key alliances with people that you meet. You always come across people that have a wealth of knowledge. It's just a matter of getting them to like give you that knowledge, which takes time. Takes a lot of time, takes years. Like you guys, there's people that I've been calling and I've maintained relationships with. I would say like maintaining relationships is huge. There's still people. I've been calling people for 8-9 years. Go out to breakfast with, things like that. Yeah, maintaining your relationships has been huge.
And now that you have the family and your time is not as free as it used to be, let's just say, what does the next 5 to 10 years look like? I mean, is there a pivot, or where do you think you're going to be?
Man, I don't know. I really don't know.
That's probably the most transparent answer that anyone's given us on this show, man. Just like, well, I don't really read too much. I just kind of do it. And I don't really know what the future holds. That's what I love about you, though, Mark.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, bro, you kind of just, dude, you have this thing about you that I just respect so much, where you kind of just wing it and it fucking works, dude. Every time you you trust your gut, man. And like, I just think so much can be said about that, man. Cause that's like most people that are self-employed, most entrepreneurs, man, they kind of just trust their gut and it kind of just works out in the end. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that that's so great.
It's just effort. I mean, it's constant effort, that I put forth. I guess that's been like my biggest is you can't quit. If you get stuck, you got to find a way to get out of it. But yeah, you get a lot of these old timers tell you that when you grow a family, you have to focus on your family and, working, you're going to look back and you're never going to tell yourself that you should have worked more, that, you should have spent more time with your family. So it's a constant balance, but, yeah, I kind of feel like the next 5 to 10 years are going to be more family based. I'm trying to figure out how to balance everything out, because I still want to grow. I feel like I need to grow in order to, for sustainability and to be able to contribute to your home life. And, because it's like anything else. Like your expenses don't, in my experience, like your expenses don't go down. They're going to continue going up.
Yep.
That's 100% true.
Yeah. So you have to grow. You have to figure out a way to grow.
I'm sure you'll figure it out. I'm sure you'll wing it, and it'll all happen.
That's the good news, man.
If you're driven, if you're driven to do it, opportunities, I feel like opportunities will always come along. It's just a matter of, who's going to bring those to you and how you're going to get those opportunities. So it's like really like developing that, maintaining your, relationships. You never know who you're going to meet. That could be like the next big influence on your career or in your life, really, so it's
for certain. Well, I think you've done an exceptional job at kind of, positioning yourself as, like Mike said in the beginning, man, one of the greatest developers that Philadelphia has ever seen. So that's the good news.
Whoa. Yeah.
I mean, it's not wrong, Mark, right? Like you gotta, come on, man, put your Johnny on the table a little bit, bro. You know what I mean? Like you've established yourself as like one of the guys in the city, man. So like, you got to have some confidence, man. And, respect is being shown for that. So I think whatever happens for you in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be just fine. That's the good news, right? You're going to continue to grow and scale your business, and
yeah,
it's going to be awesome, man. That is what I know to be true, Mark, for certain, especially with you, man.
Well, thanks. I mean, I'm optimistic, but, at the same time, yeah, very, very, there's a little bit of, little bit of uncertainty, that surrounds, I guess me, or, that surrounds me these days. So,
I think that's everyone though. Everyone's kind of uncertain about the market right now, right? But so everyone was uncertain about the market in 2009 too. You know what I mean? It's just it's a cyclical. The ebbs and flows of it all, man. That's all it is. So here's a fun question for you, Mark, right? If you won the lottery for $100 million, okay, you can't buy any real estate with it. Are you just going to Guatemala and just buying up all the old, Toyotas, or what are you doing with that money, man?
I mean, yeah, I would love to collect more more junk, more toys.
You turned into Eddie.
he, Eddie's straight up junk, but I mean, he was, this is my dad's mantra, and it's he who dies with the most toys wins.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear stories about these people who amass this wealth, and then they say they have nothing to do with their money, and I have a hard time believing that. So many ideas and things that I would love to love to be the next caretaker of. $100 million with me, that would be fantastic. If I couldn't spend it on real estate, I mean, there'd be like no shortage. There'd be no shortage. I would do with it. Yeah, I would collect stuff. Have a huge collection. I mean, there's some like really big collectors, whether it be like old construction equipment. I go to this old construction equipment show. Well, I try to go every year. It's a little bit difficult now with kids and with COVID, but yeah, cars, trucks, construction equipment. I mean, there's some like really top-notch collectors out there that have their own restoration shops, like full-time people restoring cars, trucks, automobiles, like Americana. That's where I would love to be able to do that, to be able to uncover the treasures and be able to save it and pass it along for another 100 years. That's
nice.
I like that, man. I like that.
No. The only thing I would just have a shortage of time with $100 million would just be a shortage of time. So that's it.
Yeah. We're gonna open up a Mexican restaurant. Bottomless pitchers of margaritas, man.
Yeah, margaritas, man. Those are hard to beat too. Hard to pass up.
Oh yeah. We gotta open up the Mexican restaurant, man. Me and Mike are gonna be there every Monday. Every Monday at 1 p.m., man. We're just gonna be drinking the margaritas.
Yeah, man. Every once in a while you got to treat yourself. So that's it. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with listeners? Any projects you have, or just basically how to get in touch with you?
God, I am not on social media. I gave up social media. Not to say I gave up. I just really stopped participating in social media. Got a pretty basic email address. Yeah, I mean, hey, I would say, with me, I got into doing something that I loved. I still love it. Yeah, do what you love. And, the rest will follow with hard work and effort. Be consistent, deliver consistent quality. And, things have kept trickling my way. So that's what I would pass on to people looking to get into this, or if you just started doing it. I don't know. Yeah, I only have like a personal email address. I do have like a business email address, but call Mike. Yeah, I don't know.
That is the good news, man.
Mike, I have a website that Mike built for me, but I never really got it up and running. So,
I guess the good news is, man, that you can be wildly successful in real estate with embracing minimal technology. That's the good news. You don't need all the fancy frills and the websites and all of this other shit to be successful in real estate. So I think you are a true testament to that, Mark, honestly, man.
Yeah, right or wrong, I don't know. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
It's right, bro. It works. You're crushing it, man. You know what I mean? Like,
well, Mark, I appreciate your time, dude. As always, you've been an asset to me. Anytime that you want to call me.
Likewise. Yeah.
I'm always here to listen, and vice versa, brother. So with all due respect, man, I hope you have a phenomenal year. Say hi to the family, and let's catch some margaritas, bro.
Good, man. Yeah.
That's the good news.
Trusted partner for a long time, and I hope to keep things moving. So thanks for having me. And I hope for whatever it's worth, someone can learn something from this.